Imagine a city so legendary that its name has been whispered with awe and terror for over 3,000 years. A city of golden palaces, of a tower that dared to touch the heavens, and laws that would make modern justice look primitive. But here is the disturbing truth that historians rarely dare to speak aloud. The Babylon you think you know does not exist. Every brick you see in the desert today, every blue tile of the Ishtar Gate, and every story of its golden glory belongs to a ghost. The real Babylon, the one that truly changed the world, was deleted from the face of the earth long before its most famous ruins were even built. How can a city become a legend and turn to ruins before it was even founded? To understand this paradox, we have to look beneath the sand, beneath the water, and into the dark heart of a king who tried to drown history itself. For centuries we have been looking at a mask. A beautiful, expensive, and terrifying mask built by a man desperate to resurrect a dead world. We are told of the Hanging Gardens, a wonder of the world that no one can find. We are told of the Tower of Babel, a structure so tall it offended God. But what if these weren't just buildings? What if they were desperate attempts to cover up a crime so massive it took 1,000 years to hide? The real Babylon didn't just fall, it was erased. A ruthless emperor once decided that the city and its people were a plague. He didn't just burn the houses, he broke the very ground they stood on. He redirected the rivers and watched as the silt and the mud swallowed the greatest civilization the world had ever seen. He left nothing. No stones, no statues, no memory. He wanted the world to forget that the gate of the gods ever existed. And yet we remember. We remember because the legend was more powerful than the water. We remember because the city refused to stay dead. But the Babylon that rose from those depths was not the same. It was a second life, a reconstructed memory designed to distract us from the secrets buried in the mud below. Tonight, we are going to peel back the layers of this ancient deception. We will walk through the cobalt gates and look into the eyes of the lions that guard the streets. We will discover why the most advanced city in ancient history had to die, so that a legend could live. This is not the history they taught you in school. This is the story of a city that was a lie, a king who was a healer, and a civilization that was murdered twice. Are you ready to see what lies beneath the water? Because once you see the real Babylon, the legend will never look the same again. To understand the mystery of Babylon, you must first understand that you are looking at a shadow. The ruins that tourists visit today, with their reconstructed brickwork and dusty pathways, are a carefully crafted stage. They represent the Babylon of King Nebuchadnezzar, a man who reigned long after the city's true spirit had already been broken. What the history books often skip is the century of darkness that preceded his golden age. In the year 689 BC, the most powerful man on the planet decided that Babylon was a virus that needed to be cured. His name was Sennacherib, the king of Assyria, and his hatred for the city was not just political. It was deeply personal and terrifyingly absolute. He didn't just want to defeat the Babylonians. He wanted to perform a ritual of total erasure. He watched from his throne as his soldiers began an operation that would be considered a war crime by any modern standard. They didn't just burn the houses or loot the gold. Sennacherib ordered his men to dismantle the city's very skeleton, stone by stone, brick by brick. They tore down the temples of the gods and threw the rubble into the canals, filling the veins of the city with its own dead weight. But even as the city lay in ruins, the king felt the ghost of Babylon still lived in the soil. So, he devised a plan that would change the geography of the earth itself. He ordered his engineers to redirect the mighty Euphrates River. He watched with a cold satisfaction as the water rushed over the broken streets, turning the greatest civilization in the world into a stagnant, muddy swamp. He wanted the site to be so unrecognizable that no one would ever be able to find where the gate of the gods once stood. For years, the real Babylon was not a city of gold, but a graveyard of silt and salt. It was deleted. It was a blank spot on the map, a place where the wind carried the scent of wet clay and forgotten screams. But history has a strange way of refusing to stay buried. When Nebuchadnezzar eventually rose to power, he didn't just find a field of ruins, he found a landscape of trauma. He realized that to rule he had to resurrect the legend. This is the great deception of ancient history. The magnificent city we see in our minds, the one with the blue gates and the hanging gardens, was built as a massive cover-up. It was a second skin grown over a mutilated body. Every time a modern archaeologist digs into the Babylonian soil, they eventually hit a barrier. It is the water table, a permanent, rising wall of mud that guards the secrets of the original city. The Babylon that truly changed the world, the one that pioneered mathematics, astronomy, and law, is still down there. It is trapped in a dark, anaerobic tomb beneath the feet of every visitor who walks the surface. We are told that the Tower of Babel was a symbol of human pride, but what if it was something else? What if it was a desperate attempt to build something high enough to escape the water that had once drowned their ancestors? The deeper you look into the records of the first Babylon, the more you realize that the city we know is just a beautiful mask. Behind that mask lies a story of survival, of a people who were forced to build their future on top of their own erased past. Sennacherib thought he had won. He thought that by drowning the stones he could drown the soul of the people. But he underestimated the power of a name. He didn't realize that by trying to delete Babylon, he had turned it into a ghost that would haunt the world forever.
Tonight, we aren't just looking at the ruins on the surface. We are diving into the mud of the 7th century BC to find the city that was never supposed to be seen again. And what we find in those depths will change everything you thought you knew about the dawn of civilization. Imagine walking through the streets of the new Babylon. Every step you take, every beautiful tile you admire, is resting 30 feet above a mass grave. The air in Nebuchadnezzar's golden age was filled with the scent of expensive incense and roasting meats. But beneath the palace floorboards, the earth still held the cold, suffocating smell of river rot. Nebuchadnezzar was a king obsessed with the impossible. He didn't just want to rule a city, he wanted to perform a resurrection. He ordered the most beautiful tiles in the world, colored the deep blue of a midnight sky, to distract his people from the brown, muddy truth hidden beneath their feet. The famous Ishtar Gate, with its golden dragons and lions, wasn't just an entrance for a conqueror. It was a statement of pure defiance. It was a wall built to tell the world that the water had not won, even though the original gates were still rotting in the crushing darkness below. And then there are the Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, yet modern archaeology finds absolutely nothing. No pipes, no foundations, no evidence that they ever existed in the city we can see today. Some believe the gardens were never a physical place at all. They were a collective memory, a desperate dream of a paradise that existed before the Great Erasure. They were a phantom limb, a vision of a green world that the Assyrians had turned into a stagnant swamp. The people of Babylon were living in a beautiful, gilded lie. They were masters of the stars, mapping the heavens with a precision that seems impossible for their time. But ask yourself, why were they so obsessed with the sky? Perhaps they looked up because they were terrified to look down. They calculated the movements of the planets to find order in a universe that had allowed their entire world to be deleted. Their science was not just curiosity, it was a search for meaning in the aftermath of a massacre. Every night, the priests would climb the Great Ziggurat, the structure we now call the Tower of Babel. They weren't just trying to reach a god. They were building a ladder out of the mud, a staircase to a height where the rivers could never reach them again. This was a civilization suffering from a silent, historical trauma. They built their walls thicker than any other city in human history. Not just to keep out invading armies, but to keep out the silence of the void that had swallowed their ancestors whole. Think of the workers who laid those millions of bricks. They knew they were building on top of their own grandfathers. They were stacking glory on top of a crime, hoping the sheer weight of the gold would keep the ghosts from rising through the cracks. But you cannot hide a crime of that magnitude forever. The more Nebuchadnezzar built, the more the earth seemed to resist him. The groundwater kept rising, as if the river itself was trying to finish what the Assyrian king had started centuries before. Even today, when researchers try to reach the foundations of the old city, the water rushes in. It is a black, cold, and ancient liquid that tastes of salt and iron. It is the blood of the first Babylon, refusing to be disturbed or forgotten. We find tablets that speak of the old ones, the masters of the city before the darkness fell. These records hint at a level of technology and law that the later Babylonians could only struggle to mimic. They were actors playing the roles of gods in a theater built on ruins. The tragedy of Babylon is that it became a legend before it had a chance to be a reality again. It was a ghost city, haunted by its own success and terrified of its own reflection in the rising water. The very name Babylon became synonymous with confusion and chaos. But the real chaos wasn't the language of the people. It was the feeling of standing on a bridge to a past that had been burned and drowned until it no longer had a shape. As the sun sets over the modern ruins, you can almost hear the heartbeat of the original city thumping through the silt. It is a slow, rhythmic pulse of a giant that never truly died, but was buried alive under layers of pride and brick. What secrets were lost in that mud? What forbidden knowledge did the ancient kings fear so much that they tried to turn a kingdom into a lake? The answer isn't in the stones we can touch, it's in the space between the grains of sand. We are only beginning to realize that the history we were taught is just the thin top layer of a much darker story. A story of a city that was murdered twice, and yet refuses to stay in its grave. But the deeper we go, the more the water rises to meet us. And some secrets, it seems, were meant to stay drowned forever. But there is one final piece of the puzzle that modern science is only now beginning to admit. A secret so heavy it threatens to sink the very foundations of how we view human progress. Deep beneath the water table, in the anaerobic mud where oxygen cannot reach, archaeologists have detected anomalies that defy the logic of the Bronze Age. We are talking about signals of a precision that shouldn't exist in a world of clay and reed. For years, whispers have circulated in the backrooms of museums about out-of-place artifacts pulled from the edges of the swamp. Objects that hint the first Babylon wasn't just a city, it was an engine of human evolution. Think about the strange copper cylinders found in the region or the complex astronomical calculations found on single clay tablets. Now, imagine what was lost when Sennacherib drowned the libraries of the old ones. We are told that history is a straight line of progress, moving from the primitive to the advanced. But the mud of Babylon tells a different, more terrifying story, a story of a great reset. What if the king of Assyria didn't destroy the city because of a mere rebellion? What if he did it because the people of Babylon were beginning to touch something they were never meant to handle?
The Gate of the Gods was not just a poetic name. In the ancient Sumerian tongue, Babilu meant exactly that. A portal. A point of contact between the earth and something else. Ancient texts recovered from the era speak of vibrations and lights that emanated from the center of the original city. They describe a society that was manipulating the forces of nature in ways we are only now starting to understand with quantum physics. Sennacherib wasn't just a conqueror. He was a man terrified by a power he couldn't control. He didn't just want to kill the people. He wanted to short-circuit the machine they had built. By flooding the city, he created a permanent electromagnetic seal. He used the salt of the earth and the weight of the Euphrates to ground a power that he believed would burn the world. This is why the ruins are so silent. This is why, to this day, the water level rises the moment a drill bit gets too close to the original strata. The earth is still acting as a protective shield for a knowledge that was deemed too dangerous for mankind. Nebuchadnezzar knew this. He built his new Babylon as a beautiful monument to the loss. He decorated it with gold and blue to honor the memory, but he never dared to dig deep enough to wake the giant. He knew that the original city was a warning, a reminder that humanity can climb so high that the only way left is down, into the dark, into the mud, and into the silence of the rivers. We look at the ruins of Babylon and feel a sense of superiority, thinking we have surpassed them. But we are only walking on the roof of a much larger, much older structure that we are too afraid to even acknowledge. The real Babylon is not a pile of bricks in the desert. It is a ghost waiting for the water to recede. It is a chapter of our history that was ripped out and thrown into the fire. As you look at the stars tonight, remember that the Babylonians were doing the same thing 4,000 years ago. They saw the same patterns, the same gods, and perhaps the same end. History does not repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And the rhythm of Babylon is the sound of rushing water over a secret that refused to be told. The city was deleted, yes, but you cannot delete a truth that is carved into the very soul of civilization. We are all children of that drowned city, living in a world built on its forgotten blueprints. The next time you hear the name Babylon, don't think of the ruins in the sun. Think of the city beneath the waves. Think of the silence in the mud, because the water is still there. The secret is still there. And eventually, the river always gives back what it took. Over the centuries, the legend has outlived the water, and the truth is slowly floating to the surface, ready to be told again. The story of Babylon is not just a tale of falling bricks and rising tides. It is a mirror held up to our own reflection, showing us a future we are too terrified to face. We live in an age of glass and steel, believing we have conquered the earth. But every skyscraper we build is just another brick in a new tower, reaching for a sky that has seen it all before. The silence of the Iraqi desert hides a pulse that is getting louder every year. As the climate shifts and the earth groans, the secrets buried in that ancient mud are beginning to stir. What happens when the water finally recedes? What happens when the gate of the gods is no longer a legend, but a physical reality staring us in the face once more? Historians say the past is a foreign country, but in the ruins of Babylon, the past is a predator. It waits in the dark, in the salt, and in the forgotten languages of the old ones. We are so proud of our satellites and our digital webs. But the Babylonians were weaving their own web, one that didn't need wires or screens, one that was built on the very fabric of reality itself. Sennacherib thought he could end the story. He thought he could delete the code of a civilization that had grown too powerful for its own good. But you cannot kill an idea that is written in the stars. You cannot drown a truth that defines what it means to be human, or what it means to transcend humanity. Maybe the ruins we see today aren't a grave at all. Maybe they are a waiting room. A place where the ghost of a dead empire sits and watches us repeat every single mistake they ever made. Every time we push the boundaries of science, every time we dare to play God with the elements, we are knocking on that same blue gate. And something on the other side is starting to knock back. As we stand on the edge of this abyss, we have to ask ourselves, are we ready to see what's at the bottom? Or are we content to keep walking on the surface, admiring the mask while the body rots below? The desert is vast, and its secrets are deep. But if you look closely at the sand when the wind blows just right, you can still see the blueprint of the world that was. If this journey into the dark heart of history has changed the way you see the world, then you are already part of the search. The truth doesn't belong to the historians, it belongs to those who dare to look. Don't let the water swallow this story too. Subscribe to join us as we dig deeper into the forbidden corners of our past, and hit the bell to ensure you're there when the next secret is unearthed. The deeper we go, the more the shadows begin to make sense. But remember, once you see what lies beneath the mud, you can never go back to believing the lie. What do you think is truly hiding under the Euphrates? Was it a machine, a portal, or a warning we've ignored for too long? Leave your theory in the comments below, because history is watching and the water is rising again.